what is the appropriate time at night when breathing from one nostril goes to the other nostril? The appropriate
Yeah, it is depend upon body, my God. Well, naturally it comes, at night and day. After 4 hours it changes. Yeah. But you can change by your own self too.
For meditation, which is
When both nostrils are working there, that is proper time for meditation. And before meditation, due to that, yogi are doing breathing exercise. And by breathing exercise, they are, creating heat inside and making both nostrils.
I think did you say that if both nostrils are working, then you won't be successful in achieving your work?
Yeah, any work, external work. Yeah, that is only for meditation. Good. Because that is fire. If you are doing any work, then you will can't be successful.
I find most of the time both my nostrils are responding all the problems.
Yeah. Yeah, can't be successful. You can see, you can watch it now. Okay. If you want to get success in work, and you must do in
Closing one.
okay. No, you can, naturally, this is a natural process. Good sign for meditation. And if you are both, nostrils are working, then you can meditate. That is peaceful time. Your mind can't move much. If your left nostrils is working more, then your mind will be imaginative. And so many sankalpas will come, so many thoughts will come in your mind. If right is working, then you will be active. Okay? Not only imagination, but you will try to put in action. Because that is moon, this is the sun. And that is fire. 3 nerves. Ida, Pingala and Sushumna. His shower upon you all, His divine love and peace. Thank you very much. You all are welcome here. Today is very pious day in our calendar. Mokshada Ekadashi, 11th date of our Indian calendar. And today is Gita Jayanti. It means 5,200, about 20 years ago, Lord Krishna revealed this divine knowledge in the holy land Kurukshetra, where both armies were ready for fighting in battlefield. As you know, Bhagavad Gita is the revealed knowledge, and it was given by Lord to mankind. And media was his dear disciple Arjuna. He was infatuated by about his duty, his karma, and he was unable to perform that. First, when he entered into battlefield, he asked Lord
because Lord was his charioteer. This is a very great mystical ideology. In Upanishad we are reading Atmanam Rathinam Vidhi Shariram Rathamevacha Buddhim tu Sarthim Vidhi Mana Pragrahamevacha. This body is chariot and our intellect is charioteer. Our real self is master of this chariot. Our senses are horses. Our mind is as a rein. And our charioteer means our intellect, if is unable to drive and this chariot up to last destination, then you can reach and achieve your goal. Otherwise, if your intellect is not able to drive properly, then you can lose your goal and you can bewilder here and there. So, in Upanishad we are reading, intellect is our charioteer. But in Bhagavad Gita we are seeing a great devotee Arjuna has no faith in his own intellect. Due to this, he offers his rein in the hand of Lord and make him charioteer. This is a great ideology. These differences between Upanishad and Bhagavad Gita. According to Upanishads, our intellect is charioteer. But in Bhagavad Gita, intellect is not charioteer, but Lord is charioteer. And we should try to put Lord on the place of our intellect and request him, my Lord, this reign of my life is in your hand now, and you can drive, as Arjuna offered. If you will do that, then there will be no any kinds of doubt about your destination, about your reach. You will achieve your goal, you will reach your destination without any doubt, without any hesitation, without any trouble, because Almighty will lead you, will drive you up to your destination. So Arjuna did so, and he offered his life's reign in the hand of divine, and he requested, my Lord, now you are my charioteer, not my intellect. I have no faith, no belief in my own intellect, because human intellect is not so strong, not so pious, not so pure, not so determined. Okay? And without pious wisdom, determined wisdom, human being can't achieve his goal. So Arjuna was fully aware about his own ability. Due to that, he surrendered himself in the holy feet of Lord and offered his life's reign in the hand of Lord. Then he asked, my Lord, keep this chariot between two armies. I wish to see those people who are well-wisher of Kauravas and with whom I am going to fight, and who are well-wisher of Kauravas. I want to see them. Lord smiled and he told, okay. And he brought his chariot in the middle of both army, and he put his chariot in front of Bhishma and Drona. Both were his. One was his grandfather and other was his master. And he was fully aware about both. You know, and Bhishma was a greatest warrior. Not only warrior, but his death was in his own will. And Dronacharya was same. And nobody can kill Dronacharya without his own willing. And if he has weapon in his hand, and no power in the world can kill him, it was boon. So both were immortal, in other words. And both were well-wisher of Kauravas, not mentally but physically. They were fighting for Kauravas. So Lord brought his chariot and put in the middle, and he told, okay, see my dear, these are well-wisher of Kauravas, and you have to fight with these great people. When he saw his grandfather, his master, and his other kish and kin, then he became upset. And he became prey of infatuation. He told, no, Lord, I can't fight with them. I don't want to kill them because they are my respected guru and my grandfather. And how I can fight with them? It is not possible. So he decided that I will leave this battlefield and I will be sannyasi and I will live on arm. Okay? And he told that I have no any purpose to fight with them because according to Arjuna, people want wealth and prosperity. For what? Not for himself, but for his own dearer and nearer. And he told that I am seeing for whom I want wealth, I want prosperity, I want kingdom. They all are here and they will die all in this battlefield. And after killing them, what I will do with that prosperity, what I will do with that wealth and that kingdom. So I don't want to kill them and I don't want to fight. I don't want kingdom too. I don't want to be king too. My Lord, I don't want to fight on any cost, and I will be sannyasi and I will live on arm because for myself, he told, for myself, arm is enough. I want only prosperity or wealth and all kinds of facilities for my own people, not for myself. Because, Arjuna was by birth, divine person. Lord stated in 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, O Arjuna, you are by birth divine. Okay? Because divine person has no desire, no any kinds of temptation for his own self, but whatever he is doing for others. He is doing for his, nearer and dearer. So Arjuna told that I don't want kingdom, I don't want kingship too, I don't want fight. Esham arthe kanchitam sukhanicha. For whom I want prosperity, I want kingdom, I want all kinds of wealth. Esham arthe kankshitam no rajyam bhoga sukhanicha te ime avasthita yuddhe. Those all people are standing here for fighting. And they left their hope of life, and they are, get together here only for dying. So I don't want to fight with them, he told. But, demonic person always think in other way. As a divine person think that I don't want wealth for my own self, I want for others. In the same way, demonic person think, oh, whatever others are doing, they will do only for me. As Duryodhana told, Anne cha bahava sura madarthe takti jivita. He told to his guru, Dronacharya, sir, there are so many other warriors. They came here and they are fighting for me only. They are offering their life for me. Anne cha bahava sura madarthe takti jivita. They are offering their life for me. Because he was a demonic person. He was a selfish person. He was egocentric person. Those who are egocentric person, they always think that I am enjoyer. Iswaroham ham bhogi, siddhoham balvan sukhi. I am master, I am enjoyer, and I am all in all. So Duryodhana was by birth demonic nature person, and Arjuna was by birth divine nature person. So Arjuna was thinking that, my Lord, I don't want wealth, I don't want kingship. What I will do with all these things? If my kith and kin will die here, if my own dearer and nearer will die here, so my Lord, I don't want to fight, he told. And Lord smiled and asked, oh my boy, what are you going to do? You know, and this is the only work for a mean person, not a great person. Not a Arya, but Anarya. Anarya means mean person. Think in this way. Not a wise person, not a, noble person think in this way. Your thinking is not good, not correct. Then Arjuna was stunned. How? Then what is the proper path? He thought again and again. Then in the end he surrendered himself and he requested Lord, my Lord, karpanya doso pahata swabhava, infatuation covered my intellect. My Lord, I don't know what is the right and what is wrong. Karpanya doso pahata swabhava, prakhyami tvam dharma sammud cheta, and I become completely deluded about my duty, about my action, about my dharma, about my righteousness. So, Lord, tell me what is the proper path and how I can achieve highest good in my life. Yasreyasya nishtam bruhitan me. Shishyaste ham sadhimam tvam prapan. My Lord, I am your disciple. I am surrendering myself into your holy feet. Bestow me your divine knowledge and how I can achieve highest good. Yasreyasya nishtam bruhitan me. He asked about highest good. My Lord, teach me how I can achieve highest good. Then Lord smiled and he started his teaching. And today, that is that day, 5,200, about 20 years ago, this incident occurred in Holy Land, in our motherland, India. On the place of Kurukshetra, at that called Dharmakshetra too, very pious place. Nowadays that place is in Haryana province. Very near to my ashrama. That very pious place, and still now there are some remains. If you go there, you can see. And that is a Jyotishwar place where Lord Krishna gave this divine message. So, this divine message was given by Lord to his own disciple, and one such kind of person who was confused about his duty. Not only Arjuna, This is a nature of common people. Okay? This is a nature of common people. Common people are not aware about their duty, what duty, real duty is. Okay? And mostly people become prey of false notion, false ideas, false duty too. Whatever your real duty, you are not aware about that. But you accepted some false duties. Oh, this is my duty, I have to do this and I have to do that. But Arjuna decided that not myself, but my Lord will teach me proper dharma, proper virtue, proper righteousness. If he will teach me, then my life will be better and I will achieve my destination in my life. Due to that, he asked Lord, Yasreyasya nishtam ruhitan me. Whatever is good for me, not only good, whatever is best for me, through which I can achieve my highest good, give me that direction, that knowledge. He requested. Then Lord started. In second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord message started. And first he gave Sankhya philosophy. And then he taught about yoga. In second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Lord started his teaching, he started from that subject which is related with Sankhya philosophy. What is the main subject of Sankhya philosophy? Try to describe nature and spirit. Nature and spirit, there are two main, cause of life. Nature and spirit. Nature appear in the form of intellect, ego, mind, senses, and physical structure. These are projection of nature. Nature is called energy, in other words. So that nature appear, first manifest in the form of intellect. Then from intellect our ego appear. And from ego, mind. Ego has 16 children. Okay? Ego has 16 children. One mind, 5 cognitive senses, 5 active senses, and 5 objective senses. These are 16 in one mind. Okay? So ego has 16 children, according to Sankhya philosophy. And then there are 5 grandchildren too. Egos, 5 grandchildren. That is 5 primordial elements: ether, air, fire, water, and earth. These are called 5 grandchildren. Okay? So nature evolved herself in the form of 23-fold. Okay? In 23 levels, in other words, you can say. 5 primordial elements, and 5 objective senses, and 5 cognitive organs, 5 active organs, 1 mind, intellect, and ego. These are 23. Okay? And one in nature herself. So, nature evolved these 23, aspects from herself. And that is called nature. All are projection of nature. But your life is not related with only nature. These are only means. Then what is your real self? Your real self is not projection of nature. That is not part of nature. Okay? Your real self is not part of nature. That is not projection of nature. Your real self is only ray of supreme consciousness. That very supreme consciousness is called spirit. So there are two, main causes nature and spirit. In 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna stated that क्षेत्र क्षेत्रज्ञयोर ज्ञानम एतस् ज्ञानम मतमम पुरुषः प्रकृतिस्थो हि भुंक्ते प्रकृतिजान गुणान कारणम गुण संगस्य सदस्य दोन जन्मसु पुरुषः प्रकृतिश्चैव विध्यनादि उभवपि. Lord stated here that nature and spirit both are eternal. Be aware about it. He taught. Nature and spirit both are eternal, and be aware about it. And among those, nature is the cause of your gross body, subtle body, and causal body, and spirit is the cause of your real self. Okay? So, nature evolute means, and that supreme consciousness is called Akshar Brahma. That Akshar Brahma appear in the form of your real self. So self is residing into your Brahma chakra. Okay? And Lord stated, Iswara Sarvabhutanam Hridayase Arjun Tishtat. That is called Hridayam in Sanskrit. This Brahma chakra is called Hridayam. Okay? Hridayam is not heart. You don't think about it. That Hridayam is heart. Heart is not Hridayam. In Upanishada and Veda, Hridayam means your Brahma chakra. That is a place. You know? Here, that is called Murdha, in other words too, in Sanskrit. So that is Hridayam. And God is residing into that Hridayam. Hridayasya Arjuna Tishtat. And that is the real place of Lord. Okay? Due to that, in Upanishad and in Bhagavad Gita also we are reading Urdhva Moolamada Saka Masvattam Prahurabhyam. So Lord stated in 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he started his teaching Asocyananya Sochastam Pragyavadansya Vase Gatasun Gatasuncha Nanusochanti Pandita. Oh Arjuna, you are talking like a wise man, but you are repenting like a fool. You know, wise men never think about those who died and never think about those who are living here. Because those who are living here try to serve them, and those who died don't think about that. They are enjoying according to their own karma. What will you do for them? So wise men never think about those who are living and never think about those who are, not living in the world. Gatasun sinanu sochanti pandita. But you are talking like a wise man. You are thinking that you will kill all these people? How one can kill any person? Do you know whom you are going to kill? And you know how you can kill that soul? Soul is eternal. Self is eternal. That is only manifested form of supreme consciousness. And that is immortal. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita va nabhuya ajo nityah shashvato yam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. When this body will die, and after that soul will live. That is eternal. That is perpetual. That is immortal. Okay? No power can kill that self, because that is the only ray of sun. As no power can, catch ray of sun. Ray is always related with sun and comes from sun and live in sun too. In one, passage I wrote, ज्यों रश्मिये सब भास्कर से भास्कर में पूर रे त्यों सदा तू राम से अरु राम में ना दूर रे. As each ray is in sun and comes from sun, okay, in the end merge into sun. In the same way, each self is living into God and coming from God, okay, and merging into God too. God is the source of life. That is infinite consciousness. So that is eternal. How one can kill that? And you are talking about body. So nobody can serve body. Body is changeable, and one day it will die. Okay? Nobody can keep body always, because body can't be eternal. That's changeable, changing in every moment. Okay? In every moment you can see as childhood, as younghood, as oldhood come, in the same way death come too. As childhood change into, younghood, as a younghood change into oldhood, in the same way, oldhood will get ends and he will die. So nobody can, prevent that body. Nobody can protect that body. Body changeable and changing always like a cloth. वासांस जीर्णानि यथा विहाय नवानि गृह्णाति नरो प्राणी तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णान्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि. As we are leaving old cloth and wearing new cloth, okay, in the same way the self is leaving old body and wearing new body. Be aware about it. Birth and death. What is birth and what is death? According to Upanishad and according to Bhagavad Gita too, when our soul achieve, become related with this physical structure, that is called birth. When our soul leave this body, is called death. What is soul? Soul is not self. Be aware about it. There are great differences between soul and self. Okay? Soul is a person, but self is not person. Be aware. Soul is a person, but self is not person. When we are talking about soul, we are talking about subtle body. Okay? When we are talking about soul, we are talking about individual, person. That individuation is not only with body, but without body too. As you can, cognize it in good way, as when you are going into sleep stage, and you are dreaming, your body is lying down on the bed, but you are walking, you are talking, you are seeing, you are doing something in dream. Okay? So in dream stage, there is no this body, but who is doing all these things? Are you aware about that? That is your subtle body. Okay? That is your mental body. Your mental body is walking, talking, doing, singing, dancing, weeping, crying, sometimes, creating so many things. All activities are doing that. So that is called subtle body, and that is called soul. Okay? Soul has two things: subtle nature and with consciousness. When we are talking about soul, we are talking about individuation. Okay? And individuation has two things: nature and spirit. But nature is there in subtle form or causal form. Okay? And spirit enlightening in that subtle body and causal body. And there is individuation. When a person dies, okay, Lord stated in 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, I describe all, when I was, giving my talk on 15th chapter, that उत्क्रामंतम स्थितम वापि भुंजानम वा गुणान्वितम विमूढ़ा नानुपश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति ज्ञान चक्षुषा. Okay? When this self leave this body, then mana shashtani indriyani prakatisthan karsati. And he, always draw mind with 5 cognitive senses, 5 active senses, all these subtle body, go with it. And then he adopt a new body. Okay? So, when we are talking about soul, we are talking about that subtle form of your individuation. Okay? That is not really death. When you are leaving this body, that is not really death. Really death will occur when you will be free from that subtle body too. When you will be free from causal body too. What is causal body? when you are entering in deep sleep, okay? When you are entering in deep sleep, not in dreaming state. When you are entering in deep sleep and you are enjoying your sleep calmly, quietly, okay, perfectly, and you are thinking that, oh, I slept well, and without any dream, it was marvelous. Okay? And you become fresh and you become, and when you awake from deep sleep, you feel freshness and you feel energized, because at that state your subtle body merges into causal body. Causal body is only intellect. Okay? Intellect is called causal body, and mind is the master of subtle body. So when you go in deep sleep, then at that time you are living in causal body. But when you are dreaming, then you are living in subtle body. When you are awaking, you are living in gross body. There are three bodies, and three bodies are related with three states: awakening, dreaming, and deep sleep. Three stages. These three stages are related with your natural body. Causal body is natural body too. Okay? And subtle body is natural body too. And this gross body is natural body too. But gross body is result of gross nature. And subtle body is result of subtle nature. And causal body is result of causal nature. Okay? As I told you, causal nature appear into form of intellect. That's first manifested form of energy. And first manifested form of nature. So that intellect is your causal body. Then what is emancipation? Emancipation occurs when you will leave that intellect to complete dissolution into ocean of consciousness. When your self will merge its own cause, that is perfectly emancipation. Okay? But there is next stage of emancipation too. As I was telling one day, when you are achieving Brahmaloka, Goloka, Saket Loka, at that state, your causal body is living, not subtle body. You become free from subtle body, but your causal body exists at that state. Your intellect exists in that state. And your individuation exists in that state too. But you become fully aware about truth. And you see that this is only part of subtle and causal nature, but you are one with Godhead. Okay? So that state is called emancipated state. And those who are living in Brahmaloka, and they merge their own entity into causal phenomena of supreme consciousness. When that Brahma merge at that time, that is called Krama Mukti in our Shastra. There are two kinds of emancipation: Krama Mukti and Sadhya Mukti. When your individuation merge into causal, supreme consciousness, that is called Sadhya Mukti. But when you leave this body and go some divine place and live there, and after that you merge into supreme cause, that is called Krama Mukti. Okay? Not at once you are emancipated, but you live in that higher state and you merge into supreme cause in the end. So there are two kinds of emancipation in our Shastra. So I mean that when we are talking about soul, we are talking about your subtle body, your causal body with consciousness. Okay? But in Bhagavad Gita, Lord stated here in 2nd chapter that these mental body or intellectual body or physical body, all are bodies, all are projection of nature. And when a person die, he leave only physical body, not mental body, not causal body. Okay? And he doesn't lose his own entity. He has his own entity too. Okay? Due to that, Abhyaktadin Bhutani, Vyakta Madhyani Bharata, Abhyakta Nidhananyava Tattaka Pradevana. Why you are crying about changing clothes? This gross body is like a cloth, not subtle body, not causal body. Okay? Why you are crying, changing the cloth? When really you will think deeply upon it, then you will be free from infatuation, he taught. So in second chapter he taught Sankhya philosophy first. In Sankhya philosophy we see a great description about nature and spirit. Okay? That is called scientific philosophy. And that is the oldest philosophy in our country, in our tradition. First philosopher was Lord Kapila. And he stated that philosophy. And I never see any other philosopher before Kapila. Okay? All Upanishads are, projected after Kapila. And Kapila is first philosopher in our history. Because he was grandson of Manu. And there was no other philosopher before Kapila, as I told you. So Sankhya philosophy is oldest philosophy, and that is scientific philosophy. And our whole social and, our all kinds of setup, social setup, political setup, physical setup, all kinds of setup is based on Sankhya philosophy. One day I told, again before too, that all kinds of setups are based on Sankhya philosophy. Due to that, Lord stated first Sankhya philosophy and second chapter, and after that he told, now I taught you Sankhya wisdom. Esha te avihita Sankhe buddhim yoga tu imam srunu. Now I taught you Sankhya wisdom. Now listen. Yoga wisdom. Yoga wisdom is practicable. Sankhya is only theory. You can, analyze. But how you can put your own practice? Then he told that is a yoga philosophy. As I told you many times, Sankhya is theory and yoga is practical. Okay? And he taught Buddhi Yoga, that's called Buddhi Yoga. That is a very great thing in Bhagavad Gita. Okay? That is special teaching of Lord. As I told many times, I never find such kind of ideology in any Upanishad. In any Upanishad. Gita's teaching is unique. Unique. Okay? You will never find such kind of ideology in any Upanishad. The very highest teaching. Because Upanishad's teaching is related with seers, or guru and disciple. And what kind of disciple you will find in Upanishad? Such kind of disciple who left all his belonging, okay? Left all in his relations, his family, everything. And after that, he, as a symbol, he take a very dry, wood in his hand. Then he is searching Guru. Searching Guru. When he got Guru, then he becomes surrendered. Okay? And asked, Adhi Bhago Brahma, sir, teach me about highest truth. Then Guru replied, okay. And sometimes I am seeing, Guru told, okay, live with me some years and I will test you first. If you are proper vessel, then I will pour my knowledge. Not before that. Okay? And sometimes Guru told, okay, you are a good person. Come and I will teach you. We are seeing two kinds of, process. Sometimes some, seekers come to Guru and ask, Adhi Bhago Brahma, and Guru is asking, what you learned? What you were doing before that? And he, explain his own ability and learning and everything. And Guru is saying, okay, first you have to try to leave all, then come to me. When you will be fresh, then I will teach you. So, such kind of discourses we are seeing in Upanishads. So Upanishads are related with those people who are seeker of absolute truth. But Bhagavad Gita is not related with such kind of disciple and guru. Not a hermitage. You know, Bhagavad Gita's guru is not a hermitage. He is not living in jungle. Then who is he? He is incarnation of Lord himself. And what he is doing? He is a charioteer. He is a driver. Okay? And what is disciple? Disciple is not a seeker. He is a, master of chariot. He is a fighter. He is a warrior. And where they are talking about this supreme knowledge, in battlefield, not in jungle. Okay? Very, very strange, and very complicated position you will see in Bhagavad Gita. Very strange, very complicated. And you will never find such kind of, circumstances in any Upanishad. And not in any Upanishad, but in any religious book too. You will never find such kind of circumstances as you will find in Bhagavad Gita. So, I mean that Bhagavad Gita is for each person, every person, for a confused person, he who has no real thinking, he who has no proper knowledge about his own righteousness, about his own dharma. Okay? For such kind of people, Lord revealed his divine knowledge. And you will find one other thing too. In other Upanishads and Vedas, we are seeing knowledge is divided in so many parts. Okay? And Master always teaches knowledge according to disciples' ability. But in Bhagavad Gita, there is great message. And each level of person can adopt that. Okay? There is no classification in Bhagavad Gita. Lord stated, Eme matmidam nityam anutishtanti manava. Okay? He told that I am teaching for